Believe it or not, I've been a nurse for 10 years, and in the past decade, nursing has taught me some really impressive life lessons. Some of them have stuck with me, and I call them my personal life hacks. And in this video, I'll tell you 7 of those lessons. Now, here is lesson 1. Your health is your greatest wealth. This is pretty much the first lesson you learn in becoming a nurse, and it does make sense that caring for people who have lost their health teaches you the importance of keeping yours. You realize how quickly the human body changes, and once agile people become very weak and confined to the hospital bed. Now, the truth of the matter is that when someone becomes ill and gets confined to the hospital bed, it's not just their body that suffers. All of their associates also suffer some consequences because they now begin to have to make adjustments to be able to live with the deficits of the ill health of their loved one or their friend or whoever that will be. And as a nurse, when you see the human body confined to the hospital bed for such a long time, you begin to realize the sheer latitude that your health affords you, and you become more inclined to taking care of your health. Now, having worked in nursing for some period of time, I can say without equivocation that in the face of ill health, money doesn't mean much, especially when money has been stretched to its limit. Now, if you know a thing or two about the death of billionaires like Apple founder Steve Jobs, you will begin to better appreciate what I talk about when I say that in the face of ill health, money does not carry so much weight. Now, nursing has taught me that good self-care is one of the best gifts that you can give to yourself. It is key and it is second to none. You see, for once, I decided to prioritize my health. So instead of investing all of my extra hours in picking up extra shifts in a quest to make money, I decided to indulge myself in activities that have a definite and positive return on both my physical and mental health. I'd rather go out and have fun with my friends and sometimes get onto the dancing floor and absolutely smash it, or take my wife out to the games and show her who's the boss, even if she feels she has won a game. Or sometimes a simple walk in the woods does me a lot of good. And so nursing has taught me a better way to live, which is that instead of dying to live, why don't you flip it on its head and do the otherwise? Live life to the fullest, taking care of your health. And this leads me to my second lesson: stay humble but not timid. And when I talk humility, I'm not speaking about being reduced to wiping dung at the behest of a cocky medical doctor. If anything at all, that's a schmucks of timidity. And one thing nursing doesn't teach you is being timid. Actually, nurses are being seen as people who are proud and cocky, and to a very large extent that is not true. But when I speak about humility, I'm talking about being exposed to the truth that in the face of ill health, all human beings are the same, the high and mighty or the meek and lowly. You see, this job, or better still this calling, nursing, humbled me. It unified my thinking and made me realize very quickly that I am no superhuman after all. Oh yes, nursing made me tender. It opened me up physically and emotionally, and it brought all my vulnerabilities to light. Now, getting the golden opportunity to work in the stroke unit and serve patients teaches you quickly that every human being who has been currently confined to the bed in the infirmary was once as fit as a fiddle and walking about just as anyone. From a once wealthy man who is now immobilized and asking to be turned on his side so he could have a breath of fresh air, to a gentle widower crying tears of gratitude after being given a wash and realizing that for the first time in 15 years, after he lost his wife, his feet has never been washed with such compassion. That is what nursing about, and it's emotional, isn't it? Nursing teaches you firsthand the complexity of the human life and causes you to place more value on egalitarianism. I know that's a big word, but it tells you that human beings really are the same, because anyone can get ill at any time, which is why if you tend to take yourself more seriously or estimate yourself more highly than you ought to, you might just be shooting yourself in the foot. And this brings me to the third lesson: you are not indispensable. Now, realizing that the system will not grind to a screeching halt simply because you died is one of the most revealing lessons I've learned in the journey of being a nurse. Sadly, I've had to deal with the heart-wrenching death of colleagues both in Ghana and here in the UK. And the truth is that in as much as we miss their absence, not much has changed after their demise. We kept being nurses, we kept giving people medications, we kept giving people washes in their beds, and people kept being nice, and those who were mean before they died are still mean. People will continue to be people with or without your presence in their lives, and the same can be said of the system in which you work as a nurse. You see, the sad truth is that when you get lost in a pack of 100 people, the system is not designed to abandon the 99 in search of the one. The system continues to grind on, and sometimes they don't even pause and get a think. But I hope this video makes you to pause and rethink your strategies and your motives and your values and how high you estimate yourself, because at the end of the day, things will continue to move on. Life will continue to move on. But I hope this video makes you pause and think. Now, before the next video, I'd like to invite you to be part of this amazing YouTube family. Now, as a YouTuber, it's always interesting when we get the chance to film and make new videos. Now, knowing this encourages me to take my time and make well-researched videos instead of hastily churning out content that doesn't serve you in any way. And I'll be glad if you are watching this video to click the subscribe button and join this amazing family. I bet it will be nice to know that you've been part of the journey right from the very beginning. And thank you for subscribing to my channel. Now, here is lesson 4. Nurses will always know more than doctors. Oh yes, when it comes to their patients, nurses certainly know more than their doctors without any equivocation. I know at this point I'm beginning to sound like nursing is God's gift to humankind. And to a very large extent, I'll say that is true, considering the number of angels in white I see walk on the corridors of hospital wards on a day-to-day basis. But this is what I'm talking about. You see, time is what makes all the difference. You see, doctors spend a lot of time in medical school to study and understand the disease conditions that plague the human body. But after the 10-minute ward round is done and every member of the multidisciplinary team has abandoned the ward, it is the nurses who continue to stay with the patient and continue to observe the patient onto a rapid recovery or a rapid deterioration. And trust me when I tell you that nurses can spot every minute detail in the changing condition of a patient. Now, you see, a story is told of how once an experienced nurse passed by the bedside of a patient who was deemed medically fit and was discharged home, and the patient was just awaiting transport. And while on the hospital bed, this nurse had the inclination that the patient was not doing too well and requested an urgent x-ray from the on-call doctor. The doctor reluctantly requested the x-ray, and within 30 minutes, the patient, who was otherwise deemed fit and discharged just awaiting transport, was on the operating table in theater for an operation from acute abdomen. Another time, a colleague of mine noticed a rapid change in his patient's condition. The patient could barely speak and could barely move his limbs, and this is not like the patient, having known this patient for the period of stay on the ward. And so this colleague of mine went ahead and requested a CT scan. The doctors went ahead and requested it, and it was done. And lo and behold, it was revealed that the patient had a new blood clot in the brain, which was causing a stroke, which was happening at that very period. Now, emergency response was summoned and the patient got thrombolized, and within the space of minutes, this patient, who was literally paralyzed, regained full consciousness. The patient came to the ward and just retorted to my nurse, "You are an absolute angel, you are a star." Now, this is something that wouldn't have happened had it not been for the watchful eyes of my colleague nurse. Now, what is the lesson here? You see, this is what happened simply because a good nurse chose to invest time in knowing their patients very well and spotting in real time a danger that could have become a lasting damage and forever change the lifespan or the lifestyle of this patient. You see, the truth is, when we nurses spend 13 hours a day taking care of patients for several weeks, patients begin to trust us. They open themselves up to us, and suddenly they want to tell us everything about everything. Now, you see, this becomes much more information than can be contained in a 15-minute ward round. Now, the good and experienced doctors know about this truth, which is why when they ever want to engage in a ward round, they come and request for the watchful eyes of a nurse. There will always be outliers, but truth is, very little escapes the watching eyes of a good nurse. But what does all of this teach me about life? That time makes a difference. Time changes things and makes things better. On the other hand, putting off things that you can do to what you believe is a better time can become more costly. It will be better to focus on your goals and achieve them now, because there might never be a better time to achieve those goals than now. And this brings me to lesson 5. You see, back in the day, I got carried away, like most people, by Hollywood in portraying the West as a system that esteemed individuality over community. Having had a chance to work in England, I realized this scenario could not have been further from the truth. You see, the truth is that people in Europe and other parts of the world value their families as much as we from Africa do. You see, the essence of family is rooted in the fact that we as human beings thrive on person-to-person communication and interaction, which is why when someone isolates themselves, they are labeled as being depressed, and ultimately their health deteriorates and suffers rather badly. Through the lens of nursing, I've got to witness the various journeys that people take on their paths to recovery, and the evidence seems to suggest that people who have the loving support of friends and family seem to have their recovery on a highway. Now, their recovery is much smoother and quicker. Those with the highest rates of recovery is not necessarily those who have the mildest forms of disease. No, not at all. It is those who have been blessed with the loving care and support of friends and family, and whose family and friends are there to let them know that they are not alone in this fight. And this is regardless of whether it is the family you come from or the family that comes from you. Now, you see, consistent family support is that unlisted prescription that money cannot buy. It's more like chicken soup for the soul. It is a boost to good health and makes a huge difference in health outcomes. If you invested in family cohesion, your returns will always go up. Now let's go up to lesson 6. Life has more to offer, so protect your mental health. Now I'll tell you a story. Now this is me just 2 years ago. Yes, that's Manasseh. Now, just 2 years ago, I was working in a very remote and detached hospital in a very rural part of Ghana. This hospital was so detached that whenever I needed to see family, I needed to make a 12-hour journey back to the capital city, Accra, just to see my family. And don't speak about my family coming over to visit me, because the last time my wife tried, she was blown away by what she saw, and she literally burst into tears when she got stuck on the road. Now, this is a daily occurrence on that part of the road that I used to travel. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a great experience overall, because in all of this, you actually get the experience and feeling that you are actually helping some people. You're actually helping some really poor farmers get some good health care. But more often than not, you get to feel alone because you get abandoned and you feel like you are living alone in the midst of nowhere. Now, fast forward to today, and things have greatly changed to the extent that I do not just work in a better environment, but I get to see my wife every day on a daily basis. Now, this was something that most people would cry for back where I used to work. Now, having to work in this new country seems to have brought new validity to my dreams, because things that I could only think of have become my daily reality. Now, you see, if I allow the challenges that I encountered a few months back to get me depressed to the point where I was unable to take action, there was absolutely no way I would have been able to get the energy and drive I needed to take the actions that have changed my life in the way it did. And the life-changing opportunities of this beautiful career, the world's oldest career, nursing, is what I'm thankful for. And I'm not trying to say in any way that nursing is always loving and rosy. No, there are the bad times. Nursing has a way of viciously attacking your physical and mental health, because you see, sometimes nurses like to eat their young ones. They don't nurture them to become better. And this is why some nurses become bitter, because they've been handed a bad hand from their forebears. But watching patients recover from ill health brings joy and teaches you to keep your head above water. You get to learn that when trees are cut down, they spring up again. And you get to learn that rivers do flow in desert places. Call it an oasis. And same can be said of our dreams. They will come alive again. And I hope this feeling will last. And here is my last lesson. Learn not to take things personally. I say learn because naturally we are inclined to do the exact opposite. You see, through no fault of ours, our mind is conditioned to constantly think in the negative and requires some heavy lifting to steer it in the positive direction. You see, when you see two people standing on the corridor and laughing as you walk past, your initial inclination will be to think that they are making mockery of you. But it never crosses your mind that they could just be admiring your new shoes. Of course, I'm not saying that people will always be nice. I do recognize that some people are actually mean. What is the value in always trying to look down on yourself or begin to question your very action simply because someone is not nice? Now, at this point, let me introduce you to something a gentleman called Matt Khan said, that despite how loving, open, and peaceful you attempt to be, people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Truth is, it's not about you, it's about them. In all sincerity, most people don't see the world as it is. They see the world as they are. They mirror life through their own conditioning and experiences, processing life through their wounds and engaging in the same manner that reflects how they feel about themselves. And if there's one thing that you will always get as a nurse, it is the pleasant or harsh words that the patients say to you. And after nearly 10 years of nursing, I've come to realize that the patients who are happy in themselves are the ones who say nice things to you. The patients who are mean, trust me, don't have much going for themselves at that very moment. And this is the same for a lot of people. And that's why when I'm dealing with friends or family, I always try and tell myself, be as kind as you can, because you have no idea the silent battles people are fighting. In conclusion, taking time to testify of all the testing times that this amazing career has taken me to will prove to be a tough task, but the memories will forever live with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I recommend you watch this video to see how night shifts affect you and what you can do to take care of your health. This is me signing off by saying subscribe.